Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of February 26th through March 3rd. Now, a quick little reminder, this is the last few days to book your discounted rate Synastry readings with me. Synastry readings are your relationship readings, they're business partnership readings, they are good for generational trauma and generational healing, and they are good for parent-child dynamic readings. If you want more details on that, again, go watch the month ahead forecast because I did a much longer breakdown of that at the very first of the February month ahead forecast. An hour-long one-on-one session doing that type of reading is $35. A 90-minute session is $55. And that special will end February 29th because it's a leap year. And for those that don't know, leap years always tend to run into like election years. That's not an astrological thing. I just always notice that detail. And I like to like educate people on that because some people don't recognize it. It gives those guys a whole extra day to be able to run for election. Anyways. Leap years are really just a big political issue. Anyways, it's not an issue, but I'm being ornery. Okay. There's been a lot of energy that has been activated over the course of the last week. And what I said in last week's week ahead forecast, what I said in the Mars Venus conjunction video, what I said in the full moon in Virgo video, the energy that was activating from Wednesday has a continuous flow, continuous set of events, continuous dates that go all the way into this week. Many of us just had an opportunity. We just had an interview. We just had a job come through. We've had a potential romantic relationship come through. We've had some type of connection in regards to rebuilding hope, rebuilding our prosperity, rebuilding our abundance, giving us some type of hope as to how something is going to move from here. Some of us, it wasn't hope at all. We learned a nasty truth. We learned something that we didn't want to learn. There was an arrival of certain types of information that did not give us hope at all. In fact, it shook us to our core. Certain people made a decision. Certain people allowed their secrets to come to light. Certain people had some secrets come to light, whether they liked it or not. Some of us had different waves of frustration and violence and combativeness and arguing over this last week that led to certain decisions. And for a lot of us, those decisions came through between Friday and Saturday. However, there was still hope, even with some of that combative, argumentative, frustrating energy. And the level of hope came through in the squares to Jupiter. Now we have two squares to Jupiter that are happening very simultaneous. One that perfected late on Saturday evening, and that was Venus and her square to Jupiter. However, the way that we start this week will be Mars's square to Jupiter. And that again is important because both Venus and Mars had a conjunction at the start of these transits. Venus and Mars will rule this upcoming eclipse season. They rule the axis that we're in. This upcoming eclipse season is arguably the most important eclipse season in the entire 18-month axis. I've covered this already in multiple videos. And in addition to that, based off of the recent events, the recent uncovering, the recent documentation, the recent decisions, the recent unfolding, the recent recognition, the recent strategy, the recent arguments, the recent whatever it has been, it was the arrival. It was the start of a trickle effect energy. It was. I've warned this. Starting this week, specifically on Monday, the nodes are going to reach 15 degrees of Aries and Libra. The recent energy, the recent events, the recent situations have now let us know where our focus, where we're going to see the most shifts, where we're going to see the most change, where we're going to see the most relief, where we're going to see the most pain, where we're going to see the most frustration, where we're going to see the most action and challenges and drive and ambition kick into full force. through eclipse season. Because once the nodes arrive at 15 degrees, that is where they will remain until May 12th. So from now to May 12th, we have a lot of transits. We got a Mercury retrograde. We have eclipse season. The recent events, the recent topics, the recent situations, whatever it was, good, bad, or ugly for you. It has been time for those things to come to a head, to come full circle, to come into awareness. Because for some people, it is an awareness. Now, when it comes to the energies of the last weekend, what I warned about in last week's Week Ahead episode and in the full moon in Virgo episode was the fact that Mercury was going into what I was calling its deeper detriment. Now, the proper term is antithesis. Not everybody is going to understand that per se. So deeper detriment, the deeper version of hell, is a lot easier in layman's terms for people to understand. The good news for us is that Mercury will be in this area very, very quickly. He arrived on Friday, right after midnight in my time zone, so Central Standard Time. He will remain here until the late hours of March 9th going into March 10th. It's 2.5 weeks. We are in a timeline of uncharted territory, discovering new information, discovering new lessons, discovering new strategies, finding new levels of creativity, but also having new information come to light. And for some people, this is impacting your health. And I specifically brought that up in the full moon in Virgo video in a deeper aspect than I did in last week's video. Anything on your body that is ruled in duals, 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, 2 feet, you can count. They are either primarily ruled by Mercury or they are co-ruled by Mercury. If it is co-rulership, and I don't expect everybody to understand that part, but what that means is that because there is 2 of them, Mercury has aspects to it, but there's usually a more dominant ruler. So for example, your kidneys and your lungs, the dominant ruler is Venus, but because it's in duality, Mercury can mess something up in this area. The other thing that Mercury rules on the body, again, has to do with your intestines and your GI tract. And there can be a lot of people that was experiencing certain things tied to their body and their stomach. Now, some people, you actually had something that happened in your health this last week. Some of us, it happened to our loved ones. It wasn't to us. And I want to be clear about this next part from the beginning. For people that are going through health issues, for people that are experiencing health issues within their family members, specifically their elders, this can be a really intense week. It can. There is going to be some additional layer, some additional round of information, some additional rules, some additional strategy. There's going to be something additional that is going to come to light midweek this week, because we're going to have a Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Pisces, and it will also be in a conjunction to Saturn. Saturn rules elders. Now, anytime the sun makes a conjunction to Saturn, we start to, one, feel the need to take on more responsibility, have more recognition. We start to feel much more empowered to get certain things done. And many of us will be taking a lot of actions this week. Whether physically busy or mentally busy, there's going to be a lot of busyness in the air when it comes to a large portion of this week. Some people will have new responsibilities falling onto them. Some people will also have certain things come to light. And again, if we're having issues tied to health, there can be full clarity, a diagnosis, or The weight of the sun and its conjunction to either Mercury or Saturn can have a detrimental effect. And I hate to say that. But for a lot of people, whatever is starting to happen this week, whether good, bad, or ugly, it is a year in the making. Some of us, we've been trying to get somebody's health in order for quite some time. Some of us have been trying to make something happen in our personal life, click for quite some time. Our professional life, click for quite some time. We've been trying to get something going. And there's going to be a whole different level of insight and light and recognition that it's going to be felt, seen, expressed, understood, announced, pronounced, strategized this week. Saturn rules elders and tradition. Authority figures are very much a Saturnian thing. Some of us will be Saturn in this week's transits, and we will be creating some type of rule. We will be expressing some type of boundary. We will be the ones telling somebody and enlightening somebody else. However, for other people, there will be something that is going to come to light, something that is going to be revealed about an elder, about an authority figure, about the boss, about our parents, about another person. And whatever that is going to streamline a good portion of the energy as to where we're going to be going over the course of these next 2.5 months. We've just completed this transitional full moon in Virgo. We're at the start of a transition. As we get closer to the start of eclipse season, which is a month away, it's a month away, we're going to be rounding more into an area of completion. Ending some type of struggle, ending some type of turmoil, ending a chapter and starting something new. We're in a transitional time. For some people, there will be new levels of recognition, and people, again, will be ascending into new levels of responsibility, and that will start this week. For other people, there will be something that comes to light that directly impacts people that have been in an area of authority for a long time. Either they will reveal something or something will get revealed about them. If your boss is about, 70 years old, maybe this is going to be the week that he says, I'm going to retire. That doesn't have to be heavy. But if there's other things that's going on, other things that haven't quite made sense for a while, then there can be additional things that come to light this week that really start a long-term transition, the next round of a long-term transition for a lot of people, a continued flow from last week's energy of more transitions, because it kind of varies for everybody, moving forward. For a lot of people, this week's words are going to be more along the lines of accountability, responsibility, and who we trust. There's going to be some cloudiness in regards to who we trust. Faith can be questioned. Hope can be questioned. There can be a challenge that comes through that makes us aware of something that we were not anticipating. But it is time for these things to be seen, for these things to come to light, for these things to be felt, for the plan, the strategy, the recognition, whether good, bad, or ugly. We're all in different places. We're all seeing someone or something different in our life. And many of you are in a place where you're questioning, how the hell did we get here? How the hell did we get to this point? What got us to this place? I don't know. And that's fair. Understand that the level of confusion, the cloudiness, the fogginess that you are in right now is going to remain for a little bit longer. But something this week will come clear from the cloudiness. And that's going to be a part of that Mercury cazimi. That's going to be a part of whenever the sun comes into the light. I'm sorry, when Mercury comes into the light of the sun, because Mercury sheds light. Sorry, I said it backwards. I, as human, and I try to make my readings and my forecasting as humanized as possible. So let's get into the week. And I know a lot of people are going to be listening to my weekly forecast for the very first time. So I'm going to go ahead and give a quick breakdown. I am in the central time zone. I'm an Okie. So I'm just above Texas, right below Kansas. So everything I do is from a central time zone. I am going to give you the transits, major and minor, within a 2-hour span. Some of them I will give you the exact time span. And I will tell you what energies I feel like can be occurring, so that way you can anticipate how they're going to impact your daily life. And we start on Monday, February 26th, and we are starting at 2 a.m. Why are we starting so late / early, depending on how you want to read that? Because in the overnight hours of Sunday going into Monday, the moon in Virgo, still riding that full moon energy, babies, the moon is going to make an opposition to Neptune. This can be an additional trigger, a final trigger to whatever has been going on in the full moon in Virgo. And when I say trigger, I mean, it can be a good thing, bad thing. But I'm more looking at the sense of like, I was looking at this and I was kind of meditating on this. And I feel like when the moon hits this opposition to Neptune, there can be something unexpected, not easily explained, that kind of floods the senses for some people, that kind of instigates and triggers what we're about to deal with these next few days. And if that's the case, I feel like, again, it's going to be something tied to people's body. But not everybody's in the health situation. So some of us, we're going to have the wacky ass dreams because it's a Neptune transit. Some of us, we're just having all the wacky dreams, and it has to do with the way the transits have been lately anyways. But I always tend to notice that even when people don't dream, they tend to dream whenever we have Neptune transits. And this is a Neptune transit. Again, this is Sunday overnight going into Monday morning. This can also impact the way that we wake up. We can be waking up feeling rather confused, rather foggy, not really on all of our cylinders. And considering Monday is not a heavy day, that's gonna be okay. But don't be surprised if we wake up in like a mental fog whenever it comes to the early parts of Monday, and needing a little bit more extra coffee than normal before things start to really, pick up any. We can also have something where in the overnight hours that, again, we want to flood our senses. So sometimes if we're having a hard time sleeping, we need something to distract our mind. And this can also be that, like trying to find something that will distract us long enough to chill our mental shit so we can go to sleep. And I got a personal one for me lately. There's a bit of nostalgia aspect with Neptune anyways. All of this last weekend, with all the crazy that you guys have filled my DMs with, at the end of each night, whenever the phone goes on do not disturb, it's me, the dogs, and a big old bed watching Golden Girls. I'm not even joking with you, because it's been so crazy. I'm like, I need something wholesome and sweet. So the last few nights has been me and the dogs and Golden Girls, and this is not a joke. So there can be something nostalgic. There can be the need for something nostalgic. We can feel the need for something that is distracting in the overnight hours of Sunday going into Monday. This can have a couple of different effects. It can be heavy. It can be light. It kind of depends on you and your mood, and of course, how this is impacting you. Moving this along. When we get into the morning, the moon is going to enter Libra at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 9 a.m. The moon just went into Libra. And here's the deal. After that moon's opposition to Neptune, there's not a whole lot going on. Again, the nodes have reached 15 degrees. I said this part in the intro. But in the moment, whenever it comes to a lot of the energy in regards to exact transits, there's not a lot of exact transits to Monday, but we can feel the buildup of certain transits. So a couple of things that are building, so to speak. Mercury's conjunction to the sun, it's building. The sun's conjunction to Saturn is building. Mars is square to Jupiter, building. So we can feel certain amounts of build up. We can feel certain things going on. We can be filled with certain levels of anticipation. And some of us, the human effect is we might actually have some things occur on Monday. And again, that depends on if more of your natal chart is being highlighted in these transits. But really, there's nothing else direct to Monday besides the moon's opposition to Neptune. So again, that's why I'm thinking like parts of Monday, we might feel foggy. We might feel a little clouded at first. We might need some extra coffee. We might, because we can feel certain levels of anticipation. And if you don't know what's coming through next, like sometimes you can feel something coming and it just makes you irritated. So there can be a little bit more of an irritable tone to parts of Monday with certain people. Don't be surprised. And the more irritable they get, of course, there's always the possibility of people lashing out. I hate saying that, but it is a big possibility. But all in all, when it comes to Monday, Monday's not a heavy day. Monday's really not. It's kind of a mental break in a lot of ways from where we've been. It's a catch-up day from the energy that kind of took place over the course of the last 5 days. And now we're going to start to get into Tuesday. Now, one thing that will go exact in the late hours of Tuesday, I've got this at 2 a.m. right now, and that is Mars squared Jupiter. Mars is the god of war. This is action. This is our drive. This is our ambition. This is our desire. Venus over the weekend had a square to Jupiter. Now Mars is squaring Jupiter. I'm only including these two together because that Venus-Mars conjunction was one element, and then the squares to Jupiter are happening. So, and even in this moment, Venus and Mars are still in their conjunction. They're getting to the full 3-degree separation, but they're still in a conjunction. So we can either late on Monday or early on Tuesday be feeling the need to take certain actions. And if you don't necessarily have that action to take on Monday evening, again, this can be irritating. This can be irritable. This can be easily excitable. This can have some anxiousness to it. This can be a reactive energy. But really, whenever it comes to what's going on right here, a lot of the action that's about to hit isn't new. Some people, it might be a reaction, though. Feeling like something isn't going our way, feeling a little bit indifferent, feeling confused, feeling frustrated. Some of us, we know exactly what action that we're taking. And the action is, again, a follow-up from whatever promise, whatever connection was being made the days before. We made the appointment to do something on, Thursday or Friday, for example. And now we're getting to some area of Monday and Tuesday, and we're having the actual appointment. We're having the actual interview. We're proceeding with something as we get into Monday and Tuesday. The Mars-Jupiter square, it is the most exact in the overnight hours here in the States. So this energy can perfect anywhere between Monday and Tuesday. I'm showing you the exact right now. Now, some of us might not necessarily know exactly what action is being taken. We might not be inspired to take any action per se until we get into the actual morning hours. And between 6 and 8 a.m., so I've got this at 7 a.m. on Tuesday now, the moon is going to trine Mars, air to air, part of a triangle. This is support. This is giving information. This is giving the green light. This is letting somebody know that they need to proceed with something. We're telling somebody, have a good day. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for this appointment. I'm rooting for this connection. I'm rooting for whatever is going on around you. There is a supportive element here with the moon's trine to Mars. Some of us know the actions that we're taking, but we don't necessarily know what the result is going to be. We might not actually get the full elements of a result of something until we get into later parts of this week, just to be clear. But there is an action or a reaction or a pressure or a challenge, a push to do something that is really setting in, and we feel it the most exact on Tuesday. With Mars is square to Jupiter, the moon's in a trine Mars, and then a few hours later, we're going to get this to about noon. And what we have here is the moon is going to make a trine now to Venus. Now, what I think is interesting whenever it comes to this energy right here is the moon is in Venus's sign. So the aftermath, the later result, the later connection, this can actually, again, speak to things that occurred last week, but this can also have a bit of a peaceful element in the moment, something that feels relieving, levels of support. And considering this is going on right as the moon is starting to make a conjunction to the South Node, which I'll get to that here in a second, and while Mercury is starting its conjunction to the sun, it doesn't even go exact on the 27th, just to be clear, but it's starting its conjunction. There can be some type of relief, some type of hope, some type of promise in a decision, in an opportunity. Mercury rules communication. We can also have some type of relief in regards to the different strategy and the plan that we're trying to enact. Certain truths are coming to light. But given the moon is making a conjunction to the South Node, which is the body of the dragon without a head, the things that are coming to light, and again, if we have issues tied to elders or people that are having health issues over the last few days, there can be clarity between the 27th and the 28th that directly impacts the body. Some people are going to have certain things that are going to start to come to light whenever we get to Tuesday and Wednesday, certain decisions, certain pieces of information, certain conversations that if they aren't truthful, we're going to feel it, because again, the South Node is the body. We are going to feel it. Some people, whatever is starting to come to light is going to have a relief to it. It is going to have a purge to it. It is going to alleviate certain stresses. It's either going to create awareness of the body, or it is going to alleviate things from the body. It's going to give us a break. That can be helpful, especially if you've been feeling the restlessness and the anxiety energy. Okay. Now, Venus is trine. Again, this is going to happen between 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon's exact conjunction to the South Node is going to happen more between 4 and 6 p.m. So here's 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. That's whenever we're going to feel this relief energy the most. And even again, while that is going on, Mercury and the Sun are very, very tight on their conjunction. There can be things diagnosed that deal with the body. There can be certain things that are brought to light, certain conversations, certain things that are debuted, that are discussed, certain connections that are being made that, again, give a lot of relief. If this has to do with relationships, there can be a lot of things tied to karma and the past coming back through. And if you're not anticipating somebody from the past or something from the past coming through, again, this can be something that's triggering, because Mars is still in that square to Jupiter. That didn't leave. And the push to restore hope or take actions towards hope and faith and abundance, The challenge to somebody in the place of like a medical field, Jupiter can very much be the doctor, the guru, the teacher. The push towards Jupiter's energy can also push into peace. But be aware of the body. If you feel anything wrong in the body, if somebody else near you is saying, oh man, I just feel funky today, be very, very aware of the body when it comes to the 27th, especially around this time frame. So this is the evening of the 27th. This is whenever everything is the most exact. Okay. After the moon's conjunction to the south node, there's not a whole lot going on. Tuesday, it's still kind of a build-up energy. The one thing that is the most exact is Mars is square to Jupiter. So that reaction, that challenge, that frustration, it is the god of war. It can be pushing somebody to do something that they wouldn't necessarily do, but it can also be pushing to overcome certain things. As we get into the 28th, for the most part of the day, the moon is going to be in Libra. In the overnight hours of Tuesday going into Wednesday, first things first, we have the Mercury cazimi. That's the Mercury Sun conjunction. And this goes the most exact between 2:34 and 2:58 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 3 a.m. The Sun and Mercury. The Sun's at 9 degrees, 15 minutes. Mercury, 9 degrees, 16 minutes. It just happened. Now, are we all having something happen in the middle of the night? No. No. The human effect is that, again, things can come to light. Certain epiphanies, certain ideas, certain amounts of clarity can come to light the night before. For the rest of us, it's more than likely to come through on Wednesday. This is more along the lines of making people aware that this is when it's the most exact. But we're not all having the most fun times in the middle of the night. Let's just be honest about that. However, if we're having a hard time sleeping and we're in a restless energy in these overnight hours, the sudden epiphany and idea can come through right here. But we don't all act on something at 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, the human effect is we can be acting on it after we get up in the normal business hours. In the normal daytime, speaking of the normal daytime, let's fast forward this to 9 a.m. and we'll talk about the next one. February 28th, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury is going to make a conjunction to Saturn. An idea, recent news, a recent situation that has come to light, an epiphany, a verdict, a diagnosis, recent information that has come to light is now either being presented to an elder, to an authority figure, by an authority figure, by an elder. There can be news of a different level of responsibility. Somebody is, hearing about something like, you need to take responsibility of this. Like, you need to handle this. You need to take care of this. But it's not my thing to deal with. It is now. It is now. The thing about Wednesday is that this is when the Mercury cazimi is exact. This is when Mercury Saturn is the most exact. And this is whenever the Sun Saturn is exact. And there is, in the human effect, an idea, again, a diagnosis, a verdict, a discovery, a truth, a lie. There is something that comes to light that immediately is either taken to authority figures, given to an elder, presented to an elder, expressed to an elder. Some of us were the Saturnian ones, and something is being brought to us. Grandpa, can you tell me how to fix this? I'm trying to make it really lighthearted. And sometimes Grandpa can. Yeah, babe, I can show you how to fix this right here. We'll get this wire fixed. Not a big deal. Some people will not have a heavy energy here. Other people will. And there are certain amounts of truth that can be told, truth that can be expressed. There is a firm amount of communication that is coming to light here. And for a lot of people, this can be a very, very emotional energy because this is happening in the sign of Pisces. This can also be very, very spiritual. It can speak to faith and beliefs. And considering the squares of both Venus and Mars to Jupiter, while this Mercury Cazimi conjunct Saturn is happening in Jupiter's sign, a lot of this energy can test faith, can test our spirituality. It can push people that are in a place of hope and teaching. It can be more stressful for people that are in the medical field. If you have people in your lives that they're nurses and they work in the medical field, they're doctors, they're EMTs, they're anything in this area, there can be a lot more pressure for these people this week, around these people this week, a lot more tests. So be patient with them. They'll appreciate it. They need it. As we get more into the afternoon, now this is going to go the most exact between 3:10 and 3:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just going to take this to 3 and leave it alone. That is when the sun is going to make its conjunction to Saturn. This is what's called the death of Saturn, the rebirth of Saturn. This happens once a year. But what's different about this Sun-Saturn conjunction compared to the last quite a few that we've had is this is the first one in Pisces. And a lot of what's coming to light, a lot of the responsibilities, a lot of the hard truths, a lot of the situations at hand this week, they are a year in the making. For the last 6 years, the Sun-Saturn conjunctions have been in Saturn signs. They've either been in Aquarius, there were 3 in Aquarius, or they've been in Capricorn. Now, this is happening in Jupiter's sign. This is happening in Pisces. Now, when it comes to the sign of Pisces, this is the 12th zodiac sign. And what we can recognize this week is that certain things are starting to come to a close. Old ways of doing things, things tied to former traditions, are starting to dwindle away. However, there can also be the awakening of new traditions, the rebirth of new traditions whenever it comes to this area. And depending on your personal faith, your personal spirituality, this can speak volumes to the people that you care about. This can speak volumes to people that follow traditional faiths. And I'm writing this now more in regards to, like, in some ways we can talk about, book-based religions, you can talk about Bibles and stuff like that. But in other ways, this is actually going to talk to, like, the metaphysical and the guru and the witch doctor and the medicine woman. We're starting to look for alternatives to the traditional means. And again, we can feel ourselves falling more away from the old way of doing things and trying to find something new, something that speaks more to our heart and to our soul and to the path that we are on right now. And because this is the rebirth of Saturn, people that are more accustomed to the old ways of doing things will start to dwindle away. And how that manifests in their personal lives or your personal life can vary in good and bad ways. There can be a weight to the Sun-Saturn conjunction, and I'm not sugarcoating that. I never do. This is a difficult week for elders, and this is the reason I'm saying that. This transit right here. Okay. Now, after the Sun-Saturn conjunction, the only thing that's going to be going on is going to happen after 9 p.m. So I'm going to fast forward this to 10 o'clock, between 9 and 10 p.m., specifically at, ironically enough, 9:10 p.m., the moon is going to go into Scorpio. And in the late hours of Wednesday going into Thursday, we're going to have a different energy. Now, whenever it comes to the moon in Scorpio, the moon is not necessarily happy in Scorpio, but considering both of the rulers of Scorpio are in the sign of Aquarius, there can be a lot of need to make a lot of other people aware of things that have been going on below the surface. And whenever it comes to fixed signs, so your Taurus rising, your Leo rising, Scorpio rising, Aquarius rising, once the moon goes into Scorpio, I really feel like there's a whole different dynamic to how the week is going to start to unfold. And again, the long-term awareness of certain things once the moon goes into Scorpio. And many of us are going to want to understand more things and get below the surface of things. We're going to want to deal with certain levels of emotions. There will be more of an emotional energy that starts to take shape. And considering immediately after the moon's entry into Scorpio, the moon is actually going to then go into a square with Pluto. This goes the most exact between 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and 12:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So you can see I got this at midnight. Here's the moon, 1 degree, 25 minutes, squaring Pluto, 1 degree, 11 minutes. There is a push. There is a questioning. What's bothering you? What are you scared of? Some of us, we become very, very aware deep within of something that we need to challenge, something that we need to deal with, something that instigates change and transformation. Well, I guess we got to do this next. I guess this is how we handle this next. And again, if we have things that are tied to elders this week, this can be the start of a lot of emotional processing. But not all of us are dealing with something tied to our elders this week. So I'm being fair about that. But we can start to feel ourselves wanting to express more some of the things that have been going on below the surface. Talking more about how we need to work through something, how we need to heal through something. Deep-seated secrets and deep-seated wounds. Those can start to come to the surface after the moon goes into Scorpio. Are we telling all of our secrets? No. No, we're not. That's the truth of things. Oh, but a lot of the weighted energy that's coming through is hitting between Wednesday and Thursday. And now this is taking us into Thursday. Now, in the overnight hours, I'm going to get this to 4 a.m. because that's about the closest that I'm going to put on the screen. Mercury is going to sextile Jupiter. Now, this happens the most exact between 3:43 a.m. and 3:55 a.m. Central Standard Time. So here's Mercury, newly reborn, just had some new information, just had some new conversations, just had a new strategy, just had something else come to light. We're suddenly feeling the need to kind of like understand more of the things that are going on below the surface. And Mercury in the sextile to Jupiter, Mercury is in Jupiter's sign. There's a different kind of support and understanding that kind of comes through here. For some of us, this is going to be download energy because it's in the overnight hours. It's that epiphany, some of the things that are coming through in our dreams. There can also be something that we feel the need to express the next morning that is meant to be hopeful and helpful and supportive of another person. Like, I've been in your shoes. I understand how you feel. I know, and I have an idea. I have a plan. We have a solution. We've accepted something. There's something that has really come to terms in the last few days. And when it comes to the 29th, I'm going to be honest, transit-wise, it's busy as hell. It gets really busy after the Mercury sextile to Jupiter. And the majority of this is lunar transits. So We're going to keep this going. The sun and Saturn, they're separating. The sun and Mercury, they're separating. We can still be getting some news. We can still be getting some information. We can still be having some ideas. Don't be surprised by that. The moon is going to be in Scorpio all day, of course, and then we're going to get into the early parts of the evening whenever some of these next rounds of transits are going to hit. And what I'm saying, like, it's going to get busy. Like Thursday evening, it's busy. It's a ping ball effect. It's ting, 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 ting. There's a lot going on. Between 4 and 6 p.m., the moon is going to trine Saturn. So here's the moon, 9 degrees, 58 minutes. Here's Saturn, 9 degrees and 54 minutes. There's some kind of understanding. There's something that expresses, certain levels of responsibility. There's something about our elders that is being talked about, that is being worked through. Whenever we keep this going, get to 7 p.m., between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Jupiter. All of the other transits that the moon is doing is to Jupiter's sign. So some of these are going to be one continuous thing, just layers of conversation, layers of information. Some of this is going to be like talking with a multitude of people, but about one topic in one situation, or we're talking to one other person and we're trying to work through layers of shit, layers of situations, working through all of the options and all of the strategies based off how this is going to go. So between 4 and 6 p.m., moon trine Saturn. Between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m., the moon is going to oppose Jupiter, and simultaneously it is going to be in a trine with the sun. We are trying to get something understood. We are trying to get something healed. There is a lot of emotion in this energy, but we are also trying to get something stabilized. Now, when it comes to Jupiter's energy, Jupiter, it is the doctor, it is the guru, it is the teacher, it is the spiritual leader, it is our hope, it is our prosperity, it is our abundance. It expands everything that it touches, and there's a lot of emotional expansion coming through. Not only is there emotional expansion, but there can be levels of need for medical care, needs for healing, needs for personal growth, needs for creativity, and there's just a lot of emotional energy. I still feel like we're doing a lot of emotional purging because, again, both of the rulers of Scorpio are in Aquarius. There's a lot of things just kind of coming to the surface. Oh, I knew you were feeling this way. I knew you've been doing this. I know you've been sneaking around. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Not everybody's like that, but it's just kind of that expression energy. Okay. Between 9 p.m. and 11:30 p.m., the moon is going to trine Mercury. And then immediately following that, the moon is going to square Mars. Now, earlier this week, in the earlier days, I said that some of us might have an opportunity. We might have a push. We might have a challenge whenever the Mars Jupiter square was exact between Monday and Tuesday, that in that moment, we don't have the full effect, like we don't take on the full answer. We don't give all of that information yet. Like we have to troubleshoot some things. We've needed the last few days to get clarity, to get an idea, to get the job offer, to negotiate some things out. We've had to really work through some things in the uncharted territory the last few days. Considering how this evening is ending with that moon opposition to Jupiter and then the moon square to Mars, this feels like the final layer to whatever started to unfold between Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. It gives the completion. It's the final layer. It's us expressing the changes and actions that are being made. There's so much energy that ties back to the recent clarity of Mercury's conjunction to the sun and Mercury's conjunction to Saturn, and then the sun conjunction to Saturn. This feels like when we get to parts of Thursday evening, it's just like we're trying to understand anything and everything that just occurred and make a decision to what action we're going to be taking. We need all of the days, all of the data, all of the information, all of the situation to hit a certain point before we can take the action. Our awareness of the action we need to take, I feel like, comes through on Thursday. And for a lot of people, the energies of this week will really hit a peak when we come to Thursday. But then there's going to be Friday. And when I was meditating on the transits, I got to tell you, Friday felt great. It's super weird. It really is. We're getting into the first. We're going to get to early in the morning. And we have two things kind of going on right here. One, 6 to 8:30 a.m. This is when the moon is going to square Venus. So I've got this right at 6 a.m. and I have it this time for a reason. Here's the moon, 16 degrees, 35 minutes, squaring Venus. Simultaneously, this is when the sun is in its exact sextile to Jupiter. The way we started the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday, and then all of the events of Thursday, felt like I have an idea between Mercury's sextile to Jupiter. I have an idea. I think I know what to do. I think we can do this. I think we can do something. And there's like a ping pong pinball effect to the rest of Thursday that by the time we get to Friday morning, it's like we have the solution. It's like we have the resolution, the final okay, the blessing. There's something there that feels peaceful. It's peaceful in the moment. It's the start of peacefulness. It's the start of something changing. And when it comes to the transits of Friday, there's not a lot of heaviness. There's really not a lot going on. We get this transit real early in the morning. And again, there's two going on here. The sun and the sextile to Jupiter. The sun is in Jupiter's sign. I know, I understand, I support, I'm with you. There is something here that can even speak back to some of the events that was going on back in late October during the last eclipse season. And the reason I said that is I'm saying that is because where Jupiter is at now in the sky is where he was during the October 28th, 29th eclipse. So some of this energy can actually speak back to things that were going on last fall that are getting turned around, that are getting healed, that are getting overcome, that are getting finalized. There's something here that has a bit of a peaceful element, and whenever the moon's square to Venus, and then the moon will oppose Uranus. Now, this is actually going to happen a couple hours later, so I'm going to show you this part too. The moon square to Venus, again, 6 to 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Fast forward this a couple hours, we're going to get to noon, basically. And this is whenever the moon is hitting its opposition to Uranus. Venus is square to Uranus will go exact over the weekend. And once we get into parts of this weekend, there can be something that is very uplifting, very surprising, very unexpected, very shocking. In some ways, it's a good shock. In other ways, it's a bad shock. But there can be something that is very much unanticipated. The unanticipated result, the unintended result of something that starts to set in over the weekend. And we can get the first little inklings of it right here between the moon square to Venus and then the moon's opposition to Uranus. Like this little transit right here that's going through the first part of Friday feels like it's setting a seed in. A little seedling, you know, a little thing, and allowing certain things to come to a bit of a wind down. Up until this point, there has been a lot of angst and anxiety in this energy. There's a lot of movement and a lot of motion, a lot of frustration. And there's so much that's going to be going on in people's lives this week. It's going to feel so crazy. And we're going to get to parts of Friday and be like, oh my God, I'm just done. Getting into the weekend. I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. Okay. Now, after the moon's opposition to Uranus, transit-wise, there's not a whole lot more going on. It's just kind of a carryover. Honestly, there's not a whole lot left to Friday. There's not even a whole lot to Saturday. So we start to get to where we can calm down and we can kind of start to feel things calm down. And we can feel a lot more things that are, less stressful on the heart and on the mind. Okay. When we get into March the 2nd, this is Saturday, the moon is still going to be in Scorpio. And right after midnight, so between 12:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is in a trine to Neptune. So here's the moon, 26 degrees, 53 minutes. Here is Neptune, 26 degrees, 47 minutes. There's a bit of an escapism here. So again, for the human effect, yes, this is the most exact on Saturday in the overnight hours, but the human effect is we can be real late on Friday going, I just need a drink. It's time for margaritas and girl time. Like, I don't want to be around anybody. Sometimes we get to the end of the day, we're just like, I need a smoke. Like, I'm stressed. And we need something that kind of allows for that internalized escape. This can have an emotional carrier to it. So we're just trying to get over our emotions and we feel like this can get us out of the funk. We can also feel the need to do something or talk about the past, talk about our feelings. We can want to do something nostalgic, do something we haven't done for a very long time. Again, not all of us are doing something real late on Friday night or in the overnight hours, but what we can be doing is having like really great conversations. And if everybody's just had a stressful week, or if we've just had something go, that was very, very rough and disruptive to our family, in our home life, we've had something going on with an elder, there is going to be those elements of nostalgia because we're going to get to the point where we just want to talk about the good times. And there can be a big element of that starts to be a part of Friday evening going into Saturday based off of the moon and this trine to Neptune. So a bit of an escapism, a bit of nostalgia, a bit of, I need something to get me out of the funk, get all of this out of the way to get me into a better headspace. Considering this is in the overnight hours, again, dream energy can be very, very important, just to be clear. And then whenever we continue at 7:57 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Sagittarius. So I got this at 8 a.m. The moon just went into Sagittarius. And now the moon is in Jupiter's sign. A lot of the focus, once we get into the weekend, specifically Saturday going into Sunday, is now about what the hell has gone on with Jupiter. Venus is square to Jupiter. Mars is square to Jupiter. Venus is square to Jupiter again. That happened during the full moon in Virgo. So the weekend before. Mars is square to Jupiter, the first part of this actual forecasted week, Monday and Tuesday. The pressure, the change, and the challenges, the actions, the reactions. As we dwindle down to the end of the week and we finally get into this wind down energy, whenever it comes to the moon going into Sagittarius, what I was feeling in this energy here is that this is going to be the unintended, unsupported, unexpected benefits or conclusion to the week. If you are having a really steadfast, strong week of like building into new responsibilities and building into new levels of recognition and building into new levels of authority and helping people move through certain energies, this is an unintended reaction, result, or benefit. If this week has been full of shit and frustration and attitude and bullshit, then this one right here is the unintended consequence. At the start of the week, you didn't necessarily know that you were about to move out of somebody's house, but now you're sitting here on Saturday morning going, where is the rentals nearby? I'm thinking of those old like magazines, the apartment guide magazines that we used to have. I'm assuming we don't have them anymore. Maybe some major cities still do. I can't think of any here in my local area, but also haven't had to look for an apartment for a long time. So I'm being fair on that. Okay. Now, in the early morning hours between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to sextile Pluto. This is not heavy. This is kind of hopeful awareness, talking about the recent change, seeing how something has changed, but also seeing the benefit of how something has changed. If you go out to brunch with your girlfriend, be like, oh my God, I haven't been over in this side of town in so long. Look at all of this renovated buildings. Look at all this fun stuff. Sometimes you go, junkin, flea market stuff, and you start seeing like little things that have been upcycled, and you're like, oh, this is such a great little piece. I'm so glad they did this. I would have never thought of this. This is so cute. This is not heavy energy. When we get to the weekend, there's a level of relief that is setting in. This is kind of a part of that relief, especially if you're wanting to, get out of a certain situation or, break out of the funk and do something fun and exciting. And the other thing that's kind of speaking to like wanting fun and excitement whenever we go through Saturday, and this transit does not go exact on Saturday, but it's building all day long, and that is Venus in Aquarius, making her square to Uranus in Taurus. This square is important. And again, it's not exact on Saturday. It actually goes exact on Sunday morning, but it speaks to the energy of the weekend. These two are in mutual reception. Venus is in Uranus's sign, Uranus is in Venus's sign. And there is this uplifting energy to Venus for more independence, to do some exciting things, to break out of the mold, to do something unexpected. Some people are going to want to like aesthetically change something. So again, upcycle something. You can go junkin first thing in the morning. That's what my adopted mom calls it, as junkin. One of my adopted parents, she always calls going to like garage sales and flea market stuff and all that. She calls it junkin. And we get that little piece like, oh, this would be so cute if we were to redo it and repaint it and repurpose it and redo. And to get out of the funk of the week, that would be a really great way to spend Saturday morning, is doing something a little different, doing something that speaks to personal excitement. There is an uplifting energy for Venus that she has not had up until entering Aquarius that's really hitting a peak this weekend. A peak of independence, a peak of turning things around, a peak of healing and uplifting and doing things that are out of the norm and out of the box. And whenever it comes to, I went too far because I was talking. When it comes to Sunday, that is when it goes the most exact. Now, we got a couple things first. Well, we have one thing first. Between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to square Saturn. Now, the moon is in the higher authority. Saturn has just gone through a bunch of things. So this feels more like asking Saturn what's next, letting Saturn know something has gone on, talking with Saturn. So talking with our elders, talking with an authority figure, getting something figured out around an elder, working through some level of responsibility of who's doing what and who's taking on what. There can be some unintended results and actions that are feeding in. Are we doing everything at, 4:00 in the morning? No. But it does speak to where some of the energies are going to be moving to as we get into Sunday. And again, we are in a wind down energy. So part of what this is kind of settling some things. It's getting something handled. It's getting grandpa home type of energy. It's not meant to be weighted and heavy. It's more just trying to be there in support of the elder in this particular position. Okay. When it comes to, let's get this to 7, between 7:13 a.m. and 7:31 a.m. Central Standard Time, that is when Venus is square to Uranus is the most exact. So here's Venus, 19 degrees, 38 minutes. Here's Uranus, 19 degrees, 39 minutes. It's really close. This exciting breakthrough, breakout type energy, transforming something, doing something fun, doing something exciting for the weekend. This is when it's the most exact. And then at the same time, we are also going through our last quarter moon. And that actually goes exact at 9:23 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just going to get this at 9 a.m. Here's the moon, 13 degrees, 19 minutes. Here's the sun, 13 degrees and 31 minutes. So we're really, really close. Understanding what has recently been disturbed, what has been recently, rocked, so to speak, and now realizing that something is now starting to settle down. There is still some levels of excitement, and there's some fun stuff, and there can be some breakthrough things. There can be things that speak very peacefully to our heart. There are things that can be very supportive in the energy. This is a hopeful sun in Pisces, moon in Sagittarius energy. And some of the things that have been deeply impacting Jupiter all of this week, again, are starting to settle down. And we're really starting to feel a whole different level of fresh air, for lack of a better way to say it, fresh air in this quarter moon energy with Venus's square to Uranus. Hopeful, helpful, happy. We can be doing a lot of different things, a lot of out of the box things this next weekend. It'll get us through whatever the hell got stirred up throughout the week. That's pretty, I'm sure. Okay. Between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to sextile Mars. Doing something kind of fun that has got an action tied to it. Again, wanting to go on a run. If you did just buy that little piece of furniture, I'm going to keep using that same kind of example that you're going to upcycle. This is where we start taking the action to prep certain things. Sanding, paint thinner. Not a heavy action. It's a hopeful action. It's something that, again, speaks to the wind down energy that's getting us out of what just occurred, out of everything that just shook us up. We are telling somebody else like something that we're hopeful about. The unintended result or reaction to some of the things that occurred this week, right around here, whenever the moon is making the sextile to Mars. Some of us can be that cheerleader person letting somebody else, or because they're telling us that they're about to take an action. And the moon is that just supportive energy, like, yeah, you should totally go over there and, do that lift on your truck. You should totally do that thing. You should totally go, do something out of the box or do something yourself. Or you're hearing about the actions that are currently unfolding over the weekend and you're still just supporting them. Not a heavy energy. I really like the weekend. It's just getting to next weekend. Okay. Between 4:30 and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to square Mercury. Mercury's not in a good place. And I want to remind everybody of that. Now, the moon does very, very well in Jupiter signs, but Mercury does not. And when we get to parts of the evening, if there's something that other people are not clear about, they are not understanding, there can be miscommunication and misunderstanding. There can be a moment of arguing or feeling like somebody doesn't have the full support of another person. There can be something in this energy that is like the small, like discontentment, but I do mean small. Given the way the rest of the transits of the day are, like, this does not feel heavy at all, but it can be like questioning why somebody's confused about something, or helping somebody work through a situation that they don't understand, or asking questions of somebody, again, of things that we don't understand. Like, hey, well, can you tell me about like this new job venture that you're doing? Because I've never heard of this kind of job before. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that you're lying, but there can be a little bit more of a questioning. And depending on the way somebody reacts in this energy, then there can be a little bit more tension to the Mercury square. But I mean, super little. Does not have to be heavy, does not have to be crazy. I want to be super clear about that. Okay. And then the only other transit that gets into Sunday is going to happen in the later part, and that's between 9 and 11 p.m. So I got this March 3rd, Sunday night, 10 p.m. The moon at 20 degrees is going to sextile Venus. There's been a lot of change. We just had the Venus-Uranus square. Some of us are going to be hearing from one person about the excitement that happened over the weekend. Some of us are going to be we're going to be hearing about a situation that has just occurred, but we're only hearing one side of the story. It doesn't have to be a heavy thing, but it's one of those moments that we're just like, you're hearing some kind of beneficial thing. You're seeing the results of something that has changed. Some people, whenever it comes to Venus, Uranus squares, you're not upcycling a piece of furniture. You're not upcycling a car or putting a lift on a Jeep or something like that. What you're doing is like physical appearance, unexpected physical aesthetic changes. And the moon sextile to Venus is one aspect of that, of saying, oh, like, oh my God, I never thought of having that kind of hair color. I've never thought of doing that, with my design. I've never thought of putting that kind of outfit together. I never thought of trying this kind of food before. I've never thought of pairing this together. This is so good. It tastes so good. Not heavy energy when we get into Sunday. Not really. Not Saturday, not Sunday. It's just getting us through this week to next weekend. There can be a lot more busyness when it comes to Sunday, but it's again, it feels like a camaraderie type of busyness. It feels hopeful, it feels helpful, it feels connected. But again, it is in some way, shape, or form the unintended effect, the unplanned effect for many, many people based off whatever the hell happens this week. Now, when it comes to the transits of this week, the signs that are going to be impacted the most are going to be your fixed rising signs and your mutable rising signs. The Sun, Saturn, Mercury triple conjunction is happening in Pisces. And for a lot of you mutable signs, I specifically talked about that transit even in the Virgo full moon video, and said to be aware that whatever is kind of unfolding in this timeline can lead to a whole different level of responsibility, a whole different level of authority, a whole different level of accountability, a whole different level of recognition. There can be a lot of things that are very, very serious to elements of this week. And for you guys, that's going to help affect your identity. That's going to affect your family. That's going to affect your career. That's going to affect your home life in many, many ways. However, Mars is going to square Jupiter at the early parts of this week, and that triple shit show conjunction is happening in Jupiter's sign. Therefore, whenever it comes to the fixed signs, they too will feel this transit. And they're more likely to feel it on Monday and Tuesday than they are in the later part of the week. I'm not, well, no, I can't say that because the moon's in Scorpio in the later part of the week. So you guys we're all feeling it too. There is an action and there is a reaction. There is a push. There is a challenge. There is a desire for something to be done this week. For some people, it is going to be a healing type action. For some people, it's going to be to restore hope, to restore prosperity. It's going to have a big picture effect because Jupiter and its expansive qualities being in this fixed sign has a big picture in mind. When it comes to the cardinal signs, I'm not saying you won't feel this. You will. But I feel like more of you are feeling it in an indirect way. Some of you are going to be traveling a lot this week. Some of you are going to be doing a lot of, learning in the moment, a whole different level of experience. You're going to be communicating certain things, cardinal rising signs. So cardinals are your Capricorn, your Aries, your Libra, and your Cancer rising. If you are an Aries rising, parts of this week can be very, very blindsiding. If you are worried about things tied to health, or if we are dealing with things tied to health, or we've just had something tied to our health that has recently been activated, a good portion of this week will be the next layer of that situation, of that conversation, of that information. I think many of us have actually already had something stirred up going into this week. For some of us, it's a good thing. We're vibing. We're getting a whole different level of recognition, and people are seeing just how capable we are. And they're starting to understand who we have become and all the changes that we have made. And again, some of us, we are going through a year in the making of changes that are going to finally start to be respected in a whole new way. For other people, it is not that. For other people, there's a level of accountability. You will be getting held accountable for something, whether you did something wrong or not. Immutable signs, I kind of talked to you about that already. Some of you guys are making certain decisions right now that are going to impact more than one person. And they are going to feel slighted. They are going to feel like some of the decisions are not fair. That's their way of processing it. That's their way of handling it. That's their way of seeing it. Doesn't mean it's the right way. It doesn't mean it's the wrong way. I'm just saying, like, again, if you've been in a situation where you have not been being held accountable, and now all of a sudden, here's a boundary, here's a new rule, here's how I feel about this. Well, how dare you make this change? Yeah, well, the old way wasn't really suiting everybody equally. The old way didn't really take into account my mental health. This does. There are elements of the middle part of this week that are a very long time in the making. But the information, the conversation, the strategy, the communication, the uncovering of what gets revealed, it in itself can be new, but it's a new part of something that we're already dealing with, of something that we've already been made aware of. Very few people will be coming through completely blindsided unless the start of the week with that moon's opposition to Neptune actually like instigates something in the body. When the moon's conjunction to the South Node actually instigates something in somebody's body, unless that is just that, instigation. But I feel like a lot more people, you've been feeling something going on in the body for a while. You just chose to ignore it. Stubborn asses. You can't ignore your body forever. Something will come up and make you face it. You can either try to do the right things from the beginning and manage it well and not allow for massive levels of interruption. It's kind of like a car in that regard. If you do the regular maintenance and you rotate your tires and you do your oil change and the filter and change your belt and everything else, then usually you can keep long-term maintenance at a much better cost instead of getting blindsided by something much, much bigger, like the entire engine going into failure. We've all been in situations where we didn't do the maintenance, we didn't pay attention, we didn't do the small things, and then we ended up with a very big problem. You know where you're at in your life. Have you been doing the maintenance? Have you been doing the small things? Have you been paying attention to the little changes and the little victories and the little nuances and the little things that have been going on? Because if so, then you're prepared for this week. But if you ain't been doing the maintenance and you haven't been giving a shit about your body, and you haven't been giving a shit about the car, I'm just using the car as the better example, or you haven't been staying in tune with what's going on in your surroundings, then there's going to be something big that pops up this week. And some people will suddenly have a whole new level of responsibility that they didn't want to take on. Some people will have a whole new level of reality whenever something changes in their surroundings. And now all of a sudden they have a new boss. Like, the company sold? When did that happen? Bro, where have you been? This happened like 2 months ago. Where have you been? Are you in tune or not? It'll make a difference. I promise. But understand, again, the things that are coming through this week, the things that are coming to light this week, they're the start. We have been in for a while, but we are in the start of the trickle effect, the starting awareness as to how things are going to be as we go through eclipse season later. We're at the starting line of something. We're transitioning in our awareness to something. And there will be times that what comes through this week that the way we react is going to be like a screaming possum. Ah, what is that? I don't want to. No, don't touch me. Ah, no. Some of us, that's going to be our reaction. Some of us, we're going to be fine. Because the news that came through, the situation that has occurred, everything that has arrived is exactly what we've been expecting and what we've been waiting on for quite some time. I hope you've been doing the maintenance. I really do. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Remember, this is the last few days to book the Synastry readings at the discounted price. And then, of course, later this week, I will talk to you guys about a whole different special that I'm going to run in the month of February. And that one will be a very limited special, just to be clear and kind of give the heads up. But yeah, there'll be something later this week for the month of March to get us prepared for that. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Oh, and Facebook Lives this week, Monday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Talk to you soon, guys. Subscribe.